Hello, my name is Ann Chang, and I'm a trustee of the Acton Memorial Library and a member of the Arts Committee. This is going to be what I hope will be the first of a series of programs called Art in the Acton Memorial Library. Today, our photographer is Joe Wallace from Carlisle, and his pictures are on the wall for the month of July and August. And first, I'd like Joe to tell us why he did these, or what his motive behind these pictures is.
Well, Ann, thank you for having me today. It's an honor to be the first of what hopefully will be many in a successful series of artists here at the library. To me, this story started with driving through Turners Falls, Massachusetts on the way to my parents' farm. All of the photographs are of the interior of a 19th century paper mill. What attracted to me to this building is I love 19th century architecture. I love industry in general, big buildings, architecture, machines. It's kind of a combination of a challenge for a photographer, but also sort of a boyhood dream, driving past places like this and wanting to go inside.
So how did you get inside?
Well, that was quite an undertaking. I had driven past the building for many years, and what finally happened in order to get access is a friend of a friend set me up with an interview or a meeting with Frank Abbondanzio, who is the town administrator for Montague, of which Turners Falls is a part.
Okay.
I told him, I showed him some of my work, and explained to him that I wanted to get access to the building to explore the different parts of the building and to document it through photography. I had, through the paper, understood that they were trying to preserve the building as an important part of Turners Falls history. So I think once he understood my intentions to document the building and show what to me are the beautiful parts of what are left,
Yes.
that he was interested in the photographs from a documentation standpoint and also hopefully additive to his preservation efforts.
So there are a lot of mills in that area that are derelict. And this is the best of the lot, or the most interesting, or?
To me, it's absolutely the best. I think it depends on your definition. it's a huge building. It's probably 400,000 square feet.
Wow.
It has the Connecticut River on one side and a hand-made, hand-dug canal on the other. So it's a very impressive structure from the outside.
And these will be used in the future for their preservation effort?
All of these photographs have been made available to Frank, the town administrator, as well as the town planner, Walter Ramsey, and Dave Jensen, who was the building inspector, who I have to thank publicly, who was instrumental in getting the access to the building and showing me what was safe and what wasn't. So thank you to all three of those men.
Yeah. It is a huge building, as you can see from your long shots way into the distance. That you can, standing here, I'm not really sure how long or how great that distance is. It just looks like it goes off into infinity. You know when it was last used?
The building has been vacant for, I think, 15 years. It hasn't been used as a functioning paper mill, I think, in significantly longer. They tried without a lot of success to hold various tenants. They've had sound studios there, they've had artists, architects, they even had apartments in the building.
Oh.
But it's been fully vacant for, I think, 15 years.
Yes, but what they're saying is the structure is sound. I mean, it looks as if it might be sound, although I'm not sure what this particular thing is.
I'm not an expert, but I think that about 90% of the building is perfectly safe. There's some perforations through the floor where various machines and steam pipes went, which obviously you'd have to fill in, and the windows are old, but this is very similar to mills in terms of architecture for other places that have been converted to shopping malls or studios, lofts, that kind of thing.
When people have come in to look at these pictures, one of their first questions is, how did you do this? How do you make they're huge pictures, first off. I'm not really sure what the size is.
They're 30 by 48.
And you did it
Without the frame.
Without the frame,
Yeah.
and you printed them yourself
Correct.
at home or?
In my studio,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very sort of intensive process. Well, I guess to start, all these images were shot with the digital equivalent of a 4x5 camera. So think a modern Ansel Adams type camera. It's a time-consuming process. Everything is done very long exposures on a tripod, and the amount of detail and focus is a result of that type of equipment. The camera is for those who are interested, it's a Cambo Wide RS. It's a phase 1 digital back. So all of these were, they're shot digitally on a medium format digital camera, and they're printed on an Epson 9900, which is a archival inkjet that's 300 pounds and the size of one of these tables.
Yeah.
So it's I was classically trained in camera on film, so I think about printing in the darkroom, even though it's printed with a printer, in terms of color fidelity and tweaking colors here and there. It's a similar process, it's just the technology is different.
Yeah.
I sort of look at it that way.
Okay. Is the daytime or the time of day that you took them important or not? I mean, it looks like it's, I'm not really sure.
It's various daytimes. These were all shot in the winter.
Is that important?
Well, it's important because I want you to know how much I suffered from being so cold. Oftentimes, in the morning it would be 5 degrees outside, and in the building it would be 5 or below 5. And it would get up to 35, 40 degrees outside, and it would stay 5 degrees inside because in the basement the walls are 3 feet thick. So it's like being inside of a refrigerator. From a landscape photography point of view, the light is very cool. And from a time management point of view, early in the morning or late in the evening are usually the best times for, you have a low light which casts a long shadow, which creates a lot of contrast. It's very beautiful. In the summertime, you have to get up at 5 and go to bed at 8:30. In the winter, it's 8 a.m. and maybe 4 p.m. So the time is compressed quite a bit.
Yeah, but the fact that you did it in the winter and the fact that you got the light is important. I mean, trying to get that particular light.
Yeah, in this image you can see the lights coming through,
Yeah.
the window, through the dust in the building, and the long shadows cast on the floor. This is early morning light. The cool tones in the windows is a function of winter time. This image, you can see that this is looking out over the Connecticut River 4 stories down, and this is the ridge beyond, which is covered with snow. It just adds an effect. I think this is stronger in the wintertime with white than it would be if it was blossoming.
Color stuff. Well, it doesn't
Correct.
detract from
Right.
from the picture itself.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, in general, what's very interesting about all these images is there's I try not to hit the viewer over the head with what I'm trying to tell them. All of the angles, all of the shots are pretty far back from a camera point of view. There's a lot in the picture. For me, my own style, I like to leave something open to interpretation for the viewer. In this image, maybe you're looking at the toilet or where the other partitions for the bathroom used to be, or what used to be on the floor, or what are these pipes up here? And to me, what you add to the picture with your own imagination is what makes it a successful composition to me, rather than just focusing on the grit and the filth on the toilet.
Well, the fact that you've got the whole of the, it's not a hallway. I'm not really sure what it was. The whole of the room into it makes it more interesting. I think perhaps one of my favorite is this one.
The garbage can.
Oh, I didn't call it the trash can at all. I called it "Who's Behind the Wall." But when I looked at it first, it was sort of like, is something going to come out from behind that wall or not?
Yeah.
And I have no idea, again, what part of the mill this was or anything else. I just think it's very interesting the way you've got the foreground with the wall, and then you have this big space, and then the blue wall again in the back. And you pick up the blues all along here as you go along, and then you're in the back. but I still think somebody's going to probably come out from behind the wall and say, boo!
Yeah, in photographing this building, there is an enormous amount of huge, 15,000 square foot rooms, and then a lot of smaller rooms. And to me, one of the most compelling things about exploring the buildings was when you come to an opening and going from one room to the next, and how those two rooms interact with each other from shape to light. This image is probably a good example of why I call the show Remnants, because the building has been sort of picked clean of machinery, and people are, steel pipes and copper wiring for recycling. So you get these little details of, you have the old fence that you might see at a beach, and the garbage can, and these sort of 3 perforations in the floor, and then you have what almost looks like claw marks on the floor here, and there's an old barometer here leaning against the wall, and each one of those details in and of themselves really aren't that interesting, but taken back, to me, it's an interesting story. Plus there's the arrow on the wall, and to me, I like it because it's a quiet composition, and you can spend some time with it to sort of make your own interpretation.
Well, I think people probably will.
I hope so.
Yeah. Shall we talk about the others? I know this is the favorite of one of my friends, mainly because of the vibrancy of the colors, and then all this trash, this debris here, but still the steps are very blue, and I'm not really sure the tank is very red.
Thank you. I love this image as well. The colors are very compelling. This is very early in the morning. It looks like sunset lighting, but it's actually sunrise lighting. Not that that really makes that much of a difference in terms of the image, but I like the layering of the details of the plaster coming off of the brick behind, and the fading paint, and just sort of the shape of the composition. Again, the story told by what your interpretation of what used to be there. What is this for? Is that the mailbox? Is that a holding tank, or a machine, or a water tank? It's sort of, the place is very romantic in a bygone era sort of way.
Well, no, I think it may be romantic, but it's also, I think, interesting that the colors are still there, that they were there in the beginning. It seems that when it was being used, that time was taken to make sure that things were offset with different colors and to make it pleasing. Of course, I'm not sure where the stairs go, but
yeah. In looking at the photographs, you get this sense of it's incredibly dirty and filthy, but yet very beautiful at the same time, which I think is not easily accomplished. That's what appeals to me about 19th century factories in general, is that layering of detail.
Yeah. I brought a friend in here, and she said for this one, which is called Sink, that she hadn't seen a sink like this for 50 years. And then I remember that the Miriam School, before it moved to its new building, had a sink like this in the hall where all the children came and stood around it and washed their hands all at once. And then they also sprayed each other when they could get a chance to do so.
Yes.
So it's again, it must. Do you think it had copper pipes? Is that why everything is gone, or do you think they just?
The sink is, I think, still there because it was too heavy to be looted. It's probably 5 feet across. My guess is it weighs 300 or 400 pounds. Again, it's the moody lighting, the gritty color with you can see the mold adds a texture and sort of a shape to the highlight from the window there, which I think is beautiful.
There are all these things that are left there.
Yeah.
The jar of something or the can of something,
Yeah.
and I'm not really sure what that is either.
Again, it's the remnants that make it interesting. If it was a working factory and the sink was clean and people were washing their hands, it wouldn't really be that interesting.
Yeah. And then you've got another arrow.
And another arrow, yeah.
Another arrow.
Yeah.
This one, someone thought this could be a yard ornament going up there for for a garden or something like that. And
Yeah, it looks like it belongs on a barn more than in an old factory. I love this image. It's it's the convergence of 3 different rooms with very different purposes and different lighting. I like the movement that the doors and the rooms create. It looks very still, but there's a lot going on at the same time. I know that sounds like a paradox, but
No.
and I love this detail. To me, adds so much to the shot, and the shadow that it creates on
Yeah.
the wall almost looks like
Well, it's something,
Okay.
I have no idea what it is.
it's like a negative on the wall for me.
Oh, you mean from an artistic point of view? I
Yeah,
meant from a practical
right, yeah.
point of view.
Oh, from a practical point of view, it's different different rooms in the factory, and these are fire doors.
No, I meant, I don't know, I don't
Oh.
know what this particular object is. The thing that I consider a sculpture for
Yeah,
my garden.
it's a roof vent that someone had put there, I think, for safekeeping. The building next door had a fire,
Ah, okay.
so there's sort of certain things that have been hidden around the building.
What do we have here? This is the one where you see a lot of the outdoors.
Yes, this is in an old manufacturing room that still has a lot of stuff in it. You're looking across the canal. You can see the sort of walkway that's across the canal. To me, this image, probably more than any of the others, really is sort of remnants. The clutter, to me, has almost a certain stillness to it that speaks to me. I love it. I love the chairs. I like thinking about why they're there, who sat in them, and the highlights on the curtain, the shower curtain, even though there's no shower, and on the barbed wire. I really love that this captures the moodiness of the lighting inside the building, to my liking.
Nice. I thought these chairs looked like
Yeah.
they were going to be a place for someone to sit and have some sort of council meeting. Maybe part of the people who took it apart.
Yeah.
The-
From a technical point of view, this if someone's a photographer and wants to know how I accomplished this particular image, this is again very long exposure at a very small aperture on a camera, which is why everything's in focus. But in order to be able to get a deep shadow and the bright highlights of the window with everything in the right exposure and able to print, this is probably 7 or 8 exposures layered together. The naked eye might be able to see maybe 9 f-stops,
Yeah.
and this is probably 14 or 15.
And how do you do that?
It's I take 7 or 8 exposures,
Yeah.
knowing I'm
Yeah.
going to do this layering in
Yeah.
Photoshop afterwards.
Okay.
It's not as hard as it sounds. It's very time consuming. It's more time consuming than it is difficult to do.
Okay.
Just don't give my tricks away. Yeah.
Okay, now we have another. What is this one called?
This is called Cage. As soon as I walked into this room, I knew that I was, it's sort of compelling in an almost creepy way. You felt like, did I just walk into the jail, or am I walking past the jail? It's very dark down here. This exposure is probably 7 or 8 minutes. I set this whole shot up with a flashlight. I'm checking the top of my camera and the exposures with the flashlight. You can't tell it's that dark because I've been, I stood there for so long. But the light on the fence is actually, I don't know, 100 yards away, maybe 150 yards away through a window. I just love this image because it makes you think about what you're seeing and which side of the cage are you on.
Well, it looks like they're trying to save something, but I'm not sure what that was that they're trying to keep.
Yes.
I'm not really sure what these things are.
Yes, I think the security system didn't work.
Yeah.
This is what it actually is this is a ramp for a forklift, and this is just a little safety barricade, and the loading dock door is to the camera's back.
Okay. All right, and this one? See.
This image is at the top of a stairway, looking into an attic space. It's the layering of details again. This is roof access here. I'm halfway down the stairs, so this is the the handrail of the stairs, which are, the camera's actually on the stairs. And a safety valve for the fire system. Then you can see the icicle here.
Oh.
Sort of makes the point
Yeah,
of how
I didn't realize that was an ice.
incredibly cold it is.
Oh.
You know,
Yeah.
the long shadows from the time of day. I like the mood of the picture.
Okay, have these over here. This is the one that was your PR photo on your postcard. So it's the one that's been seen the most, and it's the one that people see. It's another really, really long shot that amazes people, that everything seems to be in focus. The little door, the stairs going up, and all the windows and the sides. Of course, the couch.
Yes, the couch. It's a huge room. There's an equal amount of space behind the camera. It's the largest. It's the largest room in the factory. It's a compelling space because you have light on both sides. It's a really beautiful room, and it's bizarre that there is this huge room with this pretty filthy couch. A great example of the concept of remnants, what's left behind. The story lies not in what this factory was for or what it made but what the stories are, the stories that are told by what's left behind. That's what is compelling to me about this picture and about the project in general, is the stories and the few things that are still left. It's a romantic place, and it's so easy to add your story as you're walking through the building or looking at the photographs.
Okay, and then we come over here to the one with all the shadows.
Yes, it was really strange to find an old school desk in a factory. It seemed just screaming to be in a photograph to me. It's an interesting room. It's looking across the canal. You can see the snow out through the window. It's just beautiful long shadows, and the lighting and the detail on the ceiling and the layered paint on the bricks.
And all the rubbish on the floor.
Yep.
I'm not really, it's just...
This is actually like a tarp material that has been covered the windows to try to keep the elements out. Again, this is part of the building that the town is trying to preserve. I think many people have wanted to buy the buildings and destroy it.
I see.
And sell the components of the building. As you've seen probably in all of the pictures, they have these beautiful timber frames, it's made of millions of handmade bricks, and all these materials would be hugely valuable to people who use those kinds of antique materials in new construction. But the town is working very hard to build interest in preserving the building. It is a landmark in the center of the town. So I'm hoping that these photographs will help aid in that effort to get people motivated to preserve the building.
That actually is a really old desk, because of the way the top goes up.
Yep.
I mean, the other ones, they had the hole in the hole in the front. And
yes, like a cubby hole.
A cubby hole. So.
Yeah.
This exhibit is going to be up through the end of the month, through the end of August, and people who are interested in becoming artists in the meeting room, there's a process that they go through. It starts in mid-January, an application process which will be publicized, and the jury meets in March, and the jury chooses the pictures for the whole of the year. So all of the pictures have been chosen for 2011 and 2012, and next March we will begin the series for the rest of 2012 and 2013, I guess it is.
Sounds great, and if anybody has any questions about Turner's Falls or my work or how to help preserve this architecture, you can go to my website or send me an email. I'd be happy to help or answer any questions.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thank you.